What grade do you give Pochettino so far in his USMNT tenure?
C.
Yeah, I'll get a D.
USMNT at Nations League. They lost to Panama, and then they lost again to Canada. We're hosting the World Cup in like a year. Is the USMNT ready for that?
I will be there no matter what. This is hilarious. I'm sorry, but like this is the perfect storm of Tom Hindle hate watches. I absolutely love it. No, I just think they're nowhere near as good as people seem to think they are. I think what people don't understand is that Mauricio Pochettino didn't inherit like an unbelievable squad. He inherited a rebuild.
Yeah.
This was a team that lost to Panama in the Copa America. Like, this is a bad national team at the moment. And why people are like, yeah, that makes us quarterfinal of the World Cup. Bro, right now, this team, lucky to get out of the group stage. The way they're playing, talent they have, and yes, there are injuries. Anthony Robinson isn't there. Serginho Dest isn't there. They're missing a couple forwards. And I'm now sounding like Taylor Twellman, getting all ranty.
What are we doing?
What are we doing?
Yeah.
But I just don't think the quality's there. And you can throw Pochettino, Ancelotti, Klopp, Guardiola, whoever. You can't fix a player pool that is limited and a whole institution that is just kind of rotten to the core, man. This is going to need time. 2026 World Cup is very, very close.
I mean, how many international breaks do we have before that?
So you've got a couple of friendly, like genuinely.
Yeah, no,
you've got a couple of friendlies before the Gold Cup, which like your best players aren't going to play in because they're either going to be playing in the Club World Cup or they need, you know, a week to like, I don't know, maybe not play football.
Yeah, they got
the Gold Cup itself has never really mattered. It's just a bunch of B teams. Like, I fancy you getting called up for the Gold Cup, mate.
Let's go, dude.
And then you've got a window for friendlies in November, window for friendlies the next year, and then a couple more before the World Cup. He doesn't know who his best team is, bro.
Yeah.
Like, do you know what I mean? Like, if you're sitting here right now, how many guaranteed starters are there in the USMNT for, like, the World Cup?
How many good starters are there
How
for
many
the USMNT?
guaranteed starters?
You got Pulisic, you got McKennie, you got Tyler Adams.
Sure.
You got Anthony Robinson.
Sure.
Up top is kind of a toss-up.
So you don't know.
Center backs can even be a little bit of a toss-up.
So you don't know.
I don't even know if Serginho Dest is a lock. Maybe
So
I
you don't know.
No, you don't think so? Yeah.
So four out of 11.
maybe? Yeah.
How many countries can think that they're going to do anything at a World Cup and 15 months out look at their player pool and go, we don't know who 7 of our team is?
I mean, if you think about Nations League being a time for experimentation, the experiments did not work. They lost both games. They scored 1 total goal in the tournament across 2 games.
Yes.
They conceded 3, which is not horrible, but like
It's also not looking good, Brad.
it's not looking good, bro.
So, if we can agree that 2026 is too soon, right?
Way too
for
soon.
this team.
Which is
But-
crazy because people would have said that 2026
Right.
gives you enough time
But
to build up to.
you could still have a performance, right?
You should be able
just
to,
because
yeah.
of there might be crazy American fans that push, because sometimes the national team can be so bad, but just because of that fan base aura can gives you that little push to do good.
You can't. No, that's
It
true.
happens a
Yeah.
lot. It happened with my Sudanese national team. They just played Senegal.
Oh, it was in
Yeah,
0-0, wasn't it?
and yo, Sudan also might make it to the national team.
That'd be sick,
and
man.
you can't name a single Sudanese player that
Yeah.
plays in
No,
Europe,
no.
but they locked up like 6 European, like they play in Europe. 6
Yeah.
players in Senegal, they play in
There's
Europe.
good Senegalese players, yeah.
And we locked them up for 0-0 and almost won just
Yeah.
because of that fan base.
Yeah, that's true. And I think what's funny, though, is that I was watching the post-match coverage on CBS, and also Mauricio Pochettino has said this for the US. He was like, where are our fans? They didn't say it like that, but it's like there's not much energy around the team. Apparently, during the game, the fans were yelling at Clint Dempsey to tell the Americans to do something. And Clint Dempsey's like, I'm a pitch side reporter now,
Yeah,
man. Like, what
yeah.
am I supposed to do?
Right.
And that's the thing. When there's negativity around the whole thing, it's really difficult.
If the U.S. wasn't hosting the World Cup, would the USMNT be able to qualify for 2026?
No.
No, it's looking, it's tough. I mean, a 48-team World Cup would obviously increase your chances, just numerically, mathematically. But if it were a normal 32-team tournament, I wouldn't feel great about it right now.
If you can't beat Canada, you can't beat Panama, you can't beat Costa Rica, the rest of these concacaf teams.
So in the last 3 months, or like however many months he's been in there, Pochettino has lost to Mexico in the Azteca, away from home. Fine, like that was.
Yeah, that's a tough place.
It's a tough place to play, but you've lost to Panama and Canada. Canada are a good team under Jesse Marsch. They're getting better, but you can't. There is a disconnect between saying we are going to make it to the quarterfinal of the World Cup and oh damn, Canada are going to give us a good game, aren't they?
What grade do you give Pochettino so far in his USMNT tenure?
C.
Yeah, I'll get a D.
Damn.
Is the problem with the USMNT a manager problem or a player problem?
I feel like it's more like a player problem because Pochettino came with a bad US team. He didn't have like a prime US to try to change things around. He just came with a bad team, and he has a lot of pressure to try to change things. But I don't see it happening because the time gap is very small.
I think it's a manager problem.
Really?
Yeah. It's not so black and white, but I think it's got to be a manager problem. I think he's got a limited player pool and you've got to work with what you're given. That's your job as a manager, to set up the tactics, to piece everything together so that you get the best out of a national team. And some countries just have weaknesses at certain positions. So it's on a manager to try and figure that out. Like England have printed attacking midfielders and wingers for the last 10 years, right?
Yeah.
But they don't have any left backs or a defensive midfielder, right? So it's like, okay, Thomas Tuchel, figure it out. Spain don't have a number 9. Alvaro Morata's been occasionally all right, but they figured out a way to win the Euros with him up front.
Yeah.
You know, like it's on the manager to figure that out. So if Pochettino is going to be like, man, I need to play a 4-2-3-1 with a number 10 every time. If you don't have a 10, or like if you just weaknesses here, blah, 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 like, dude, you've got to figure it out, and you've got to come up with a message that inspires the players. But maybe that's also the problem with being a club coach. You know, Pochettino was Tottenham, PSG, and then before that was at Southampton, Athletic Bilbao, whatever. If you drop a stinker on a Sunday, or if you're not playing well, either A, you can sign a new player, or B, you can get on the training ground on Monday, Tuesday, whatever, and fix the problems. Or if you're having a bad run, you can change the formation, change the tactics, swap a player out. For the national team, you can't do that. So it's like you have 2 crap games. Oh my God, I've got to wait 3 months and have a different group of guys to do it with. It's really difficult, and it requires a change in mindset from him. So I'm not too convinced.
Where do you see the USMNT finishing in the 2026 World Cup?
I see them finishing around it, like probably the group stages. But if the fan base come around, I give them around a 16 exit.
I think they'll be just about good enough to get out of the group, but I'd be very shocked if they win a knockout game.
I'll give them maybe 1 knockout game.
Oh, you?
No. I think honestly, Emma makes a good point. Like, stuff happens when you have 90,000 people screaming at you positively.
Yeah, it gives you that aura.
It does. It really does. And it impacts the way that you play, especially at the national level where you don't spend 6 days a week with those guys. Like, you go in and you have 90,000 people like, we have to win. We're going to win this. I think that's going to carry them a little bit, but that can only take you so far. So
Well,
I'll give them 1 knockout game win, and then I think they're done.
Yeah, I mean, fair point. You see that in like a lot of World Cups, don't you? Like Morocco are obviously they're a better team than a lot of people gave them credit for, I think. But they also had their fans like mad, didn't they?
Yes, they're Arabs.
And they got
It matters. Like, we had the Arabs. Everybody want the Arabs to win. Like, everybody. That's how like they got the fan base at the same time.
Right, and they got hot. They had like the whole momentum behind them. And was it a semi-final for them?
Yeah, they went far, man.
Yeah, and you know that can
They had ballers
happen.
though.
That exactly.
They had
That's
ballers.
the thing.
They actually
That's
had
the
ball,
thing.
and they were like the team
They
were
were-
connected. Where it's
Yeah.
like you felt like a bond with the team and the coach.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
if you seen the coach was bonded with the players.
You see, if the US gets that right, maybe
Believe.
quarterfinals. Yeah, literally.
Believe.